Heyo, welcome in to the CHGO White Sox podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app today and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Welcome into a remote version of the CHGO White Sox podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Alongside me is the normal CHGO White Sox crew. We got CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber, wearing his favorite hat. And that's Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. Today, we are going to preview the Sox-Phillies game because they were supposed to play today, but it's raining.
It's cold. It's real cold, and it's real windy.
It's because of the cold and the wind?
That's what it says in the press release, Sean. Come on. It's one of those classic cold outs that we get every April. And, you know, I don't blame them. It's nasty outside. And I think I haven't checked my weather app recently, but I can only imagine that, you know, you combine 40 degrees with the wind whipping the way it is, and then you have the sun go down, and it's probably going to feel a little bit more like you're playing pond hockey than you are playing a baseball game. Well,
and you're a big J journalist, and this is why I retweeted you blindly, because I just knew that you'd have the facts right. And if I read your tweet, I would have seen has been postponed with cold temperatures and high winds. So that's me being obtuse. That's on me, folks. But we got a doubleheader tomorrow. Lance Lynn and Zach Wheeler in game 1, and then Bailey Falter and Lucas Giolito in game 2. We'll preview the pitching matchups for the 3-game series. We'll talk a little bit about doubleheaders and how important those 2 games on Tuesday will be for the Sox. Then we also have the Mailbag Monday for our diehards in the CHGO Lounge. Excited to answer those questions. And then we might do a quiz. I might throw an audible. There was a topic that we really didn't touch on yesterday that we could have touched on, and I feel like it's a real easy White Sox topic, but I might do the quiz. But as I told Steven, I'm a little bit iffy on the quiz because I always get yelled about quizzes being too hard. And then he was like, well, how are you going to ask the questions? And I was like, oh, what do you mean? So I don't even know if this is going to be the best way to present all this information, but
now we got to do the quiz. We got to do the quiz. You made it too intriguing not to do it.
There you go. Maybe it'll be so bad it'll be quick, and then we'll do both.
I know I'll be bad at it no matter what, even if it's easy slam dunk questions.
There's 3 easy questions, so I'll give you 2 of them, and I'll give Vinny 1. So therefore you get the easier workload. All right, let's jump into our first topic here, and we're going to go to a mailbag question first. And what's up to everybody in the chat? Matthew Cortese, Matthew Lucas. It's a Matthew party, and also I believe Thomas hanging out with us in the chat. But let's go to the first mailbag question, and this is from Will M. What are all of yours favorite and least favorite things about double headers? And I think we talked a little bit about pre-show, Herb, but it's what it used to be.
Yeah. During the pandemic, they, of course, shortened the games for the double headers to 7 innings each for the double header. So that continued in 2021 also. And I went to one of those games where it was the Minnesota Twins coming into guaranteed rate. And the first game, I've just looked it up right now, it was July 19th, 2 hours and 45 minutes. And remember, this is the old school take out as long as you want before pitch clock. 2:45 for the first game. For the second game, 1:54. We know that ended in a Gavin Sheets walk-off home run off of Berrios. So I loved it because we got in 2 games in under 5 hours, and on a usual doubleheader would have been lasting much more than that, because I've gone to one before this where it was the Cleveland Indians at the time. The first game was like 4 hours. The second game started in delay, and I left because I was like, I'm not staying 8 hours at a baseball game, especially when the White Sox are getting beat by the Cleveland Indians. And so I love that they're not, I mean, I'm sad that they're not doing the 7-inning thing anymore. They've gone back to the regular 9-inning format, and they had that last year too. But imagine if you had the 7 innings for each and the pitch clock. Man, oh man, games would just be getting done so efficiently and still getting a solid, non-disputed effort out there. I think everybody saw when they had the doubleheaders, like, that's a lot of baseball, and it doesn't seem like it's like irrelevant. It doesn't seem like it's not a real baseball game, because 7 innings is enough to determine that you've won or lost the game, especially when there's another one following or preceding it.
Yeah, I mean, my least favorite thing about doubleheaders, boy, how much time you got? No, the 9 inning doubleheaders they're just horrible. I know that there are some times when maybe a little bit later in the season, there's some higher stakes and you get twice as much drama, in the same day. That can be fun when there's big swings in the standings, maybe in one day, based on what happens if two teams who are playing against each other are also competing against each other for a division race or a playoff spot. That is when doubleheaders can be interesting and fun. In April, no. Yeah, my least favorite thing about doubleheaders is that they usually involve me being at the ballpark for about 12 hours. My favorite thing about doubleheaders, I don't even know. Before the pandemic, the White Sox were gracious enough to bring us up some pizza, like right at the start of Game 2. I don't know if that policy is still in effect post-pandemic, but yeah, the 7-inning doubleheaders were great. That made total sense. They should keep doing that. I get why you wouldn't. You know what I mean? You could argue that it's an unfair advantage for whoever's winning that game, right? That they get to have won a game with less work than other teams did when they were competing for their wins. But the percentage of a season that a doubleheader game would make up is so tiny that it's like, okay, come on, just let them play the 7-inning game. It's just so obvious that they should have kept doing that.
Let's at least count our blessings, though, because baseball has loved to do. We're going to play at 1:10, and then we're going to play at 7:10. Thankfully, tomorrow, Game 1 starts at 3:10, and then, as you said, the second game will start 30 to 45 minutes after the end of the first game. So you guys will just kind of keep it going. Let's roll with the momentum here. We don't need a little dinner break. So at least Vinny gets home a little bit quicker. But yeah.
Well, and I'll just tell you this: the pitch clock, saving grace. Like, Herb, can you imagine 2 7-inning games with the pitch clock? You might be able to play that in 3 hours.
Yes. Yep. And great. And I was wondering for you, Vinny, do you guys go in between for Pedro and the starting pitcher of the first game to talk to them and then go back up to the clubhouse or go back up to the press box?
Yeah. So usually we don't get to go into the clubhouse, though. They'll bring them out and outside the clubhouse, because obviously guys are using the clubhouse to get ready for the second game. It's a little less of a chill environment when it's like, all right, first pitch is in 20 minutes kind of thing. So they usually bring the manager, the starting pitcher, and if there's a big walk-off home run or something like that, or even a game-winning home run in the 6th or 7th kind of thing, they'll bring that guy out to tell you what he saw when he swung at that one real quick, and then back upstairs and do it all over again.
Yeah, I don't really like doubleheaders. I can be honest, just they're long. And then also, like Steven says, my favorite thing about tomorrow's doubleheader is probably getting to see Jake Diekman pitch twice. It's just also really taxing on the bullpen. And we just see already through 15 games how the White Sox bullpen is pretty depleted. And it just seems like the length is already hurting them. And now you're going to give them a doubleheader. And I don't like that for the arms. So that just makes me a little bummed out.
You can point to the position player side too, because how often do you see the first game of a doubleheader kind of looks like the starting lineup, and then the second game of the doubleheader is a lot of reserves in there, and for obvious reasons. And you can't blame the manager for doing that. But I think if you want to talk about games in April counting as much as games in September kind of thing, here's a game where, and certainly it applies to the team you're playing, but both teams maybe are at a bit of a disadvantage because they have to trot out a lineup for a game that is not what they would have sent out there had it been a regularly scheduled series.
Yeah, and usually that's the game where you get Jose Abreu to sit down. That was like the one day you could get him to get a break. So I don't really love the whole doubleheader thing, but necessary evil unless you put a roof on it. So maybe for Comiskey 3, we can get a retractable roof, so we never have to deal with the evils of a doubleheader. I know that's a North Side thing, anyways. That's what their guy used to say was let's play 2. I think Dick Allen's saying used to be let's go home. No one's going to fact check me on that too. Let's get into the probable pitchers for this series, again, it's going to be over 2 days, 3 games over 2 days. And shout out to the chat. What's up, Stanley, KPW, White Sox, Tom, and blank name. We'll talk a little bit about the bullpen a little bit later. But right now, the pitching matchups. Lance Lynn in game 1 with his 7.31 ERA versus Zach Wheeler with his 4.02 ERA. Lucas Giolito in game 2. He'll be facing off against Bailey Falter. Giolito with a 6 ERA, Falter with a 4.80 ERA, and Clevenger will get the ball in game 3 for the Sox. This 2.23 ERA, and Taijuan Walker, new Philadelphia Philly, will get the ball in game 3 with his 4.20 ERA. What I want to ask you guys, how important is this doubleheader? Because the Sox have a very, very, very unique opportunity here to win their first series all in one day with their veteran pitchers.
Yeah. Is it important? I mean, yeah, I guess, because you have 1 day's worth of work can get you back to respectability. You can win your first series. You can get that monkey off your back. And you're going against a team who has the same exact record as you and was expected to do better than they have so far. They're 6-10 also. But, man, that Zach Wheeler, man. Like, I know his ERA is in the upper 4s, but that guy's got elite stuff. That's why Rick Hahn wanted him, and he, didn't sign here. I think the White Sox offered more than the Phillies, but his wife preferred there, and it was a good choice by Zach and his family because they've already played in the World Series and where he pitched well. But the second guy, Falter, I know very little of it, but he looks like he's pitched well this year. For the White Sox, it's vital for them to at least take one. I don't want to be greedy and say, hey, we could take 2. It's vital to not get another series loss on the other foot. Like, you can win the series tomorrow, but you can also lose it. And the depressing feeling you would have going into one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best team, Tampa Bay, in their home field, would be just so demoralizing for fans. For players, I think they roll with the punches as they know it's a long season. Us, we're living with it every day. And so it's a little bit more, oh man, today's very important for us. We need to win today to set up tomorrow type of thing. But as everybody says, momentum, it's not a real thing. It's next day's starting pitcher. And so if they win that first game and Lance gives them the effort they need, I think Lucas Giolito will have his like the shoulder, the weight will be off his shoulders, and he'll feel a little bit better not having to salvage a win at the night game versus Falter.
I mean, importance. It's a big spectrum. I'm not, it's not like we're talking about, their season needing to be saved or anything like that in mid-April. But I'll say this: what was the talk of spring training? What has the message been for this team the whole year? Prove it. They've yet to prove it. And they got to start. If there's an it to be had, they need to start proving it pretty soon. Because so far they've done nothing but they've lost 4 series and they've tied 1. And the one they split with Houston, they looked good really ever since. Have looked bad. And so if they're going to show that they are this team. I keep remembering what Lucas Giolito told me when we did that one-on-one in spring training. He was, we're out to prove to people that we're not just this talented team that is squandering this opportunity that we've had, that is squandering this championship window or contention window, I should call it, that's been laid out here. They need to prove that, because so far I don't think anybody would argue that they have, and that includes everybody in that clubhouse. I mean, Pedro Grifol was very matter of fact yesterday when he was saying, we're not close. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we're close to being this championship team. It's going to take some time, sure, for them to be all that they think they can be. But start going in that direction, right? I mean, start cleaning up some of the stuff. I mean, the walks, my God, the number of walks. I mean, you got to put the ball in the strike zone, so and certainly that's not the only thing. So it's got to get to a point where people aren't waking up every day and being like, poking them with a stick, like, hey, you alive there? You alive? Like, they need to show some life here. And they've got plenty of time to do it. They've got plenty of ability to do it. They've got plenty of guys that can make that happen. But until it does, nobody there's a reason that everybody is feeling the way that they're feeling in the chat right now, because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, maybe the one thing that the White Sox need is to see themselves on the other side of the field. I understand that the Phillies went to the World Series last year, but who has, and let's play a little fun game here, because the White Sox have a really bad bullpen. They have a league-leading ERA of 7.57. Only three
league worst usually is how that's phrased. League worst is usually how that's phrased. League leading is usually a good thing.
League leadingly bad. Yeah, league worst, 7.57. 3 teams have ERAs over 6, bullpen ERAs over 6. The Giants are third, 6.08. Which team's second with a 6.83 bullpen ERA?
I'm going to guess their Bay Area compatriots, the Oakland A's.
It's context clues. It's the Philadelphia
Phillies, obviously.
Damn it.
He wouldn't have brought it up if it wasn't the Phillies.
Yeah,
See, you said you're going to do the easy questions. I still missed it.
Wasn't even a quiz. I just pick up on context clues.
Oh, you ooped it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it.
All right, Herb, here you go. This is what team currently leads the major leagues in walks? Which all pitchers, every pitcher. Which team?
The White Sox.
No, the A's.
The A's.
Son of a bitch.
The A's with 86, Sox have 81. But then the Phillies are at third with 70. So this team's going to walk you. This team's going to, even though Walker and Falter and Wheeler all have ERAs around 4, they're going to have to leave the game at some point. That's just kind of how the teams feel with the White Sox is, Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, Dylan Cease will have to leave the game at some point. Here comes Jake Diekman. So, yeah, I just think the White Sox need to take advantage if the Phillies are going to make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes in the field as well. I mean, they're going to be playing Nick Castellanos out there probably in the outfield, or Kyle Schwarber. Like, you got to take mistakes if, they're going to be falling down just like Gavin Sheets is. So I think this is a great opportunity for them to win 2 games. The White Sox record since 2019 in doubleheaders is they've played 40 games.
Since 2019.
Yes.
I would say it would be bad. So I'm going to go with 17 and 23.
I'll say it's an even 20 and 20. How about that?
Flip it, Herb. 23 and 17.
Ooh.
Do I win on Price is Right rules there?
You win on Price is Right rules. The White Sox in those 20 series or 20 doubleheaders, they have lost both games 3 times, and they have swept both games 5 times. Last year was an interesting year. Started off all right for the Sox. Well, they lost their first doubleheader, both games, but then they won and then lost, and then they won 1, and then they lost and then won, and then lost and won, and then lost and won, and lost and won. So we're following the trend. They're probably going to lose the first game and win the second game, but that doesn't mean anything. Those are trends. Vinny just got abducted by a ghost. Is that on your screen?
Happened?
I don't. Yeah, it's on my screen too.
You just got it. The poltergeist, I think, is coming through your
Technicolor on your screen. It's weird.
Wow,
it's so cool.
Abducted by the ring.
I hope your video didn't just go all the way out and your camera's gone on your computer. That would suck.
Well, all right. Steven, why don't you kick me off of here and I'll try something.
Why don't you stop your camera and then start it? Let's hit up Jordan Miller's super chat here. And we appreciate the super chat from J Miller 3389. The super chat says, I hate to make excuses, but how do you think the pitch clock is affecting the pitching staff? Herb, I'm just going to throw this out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the White Sox having hey, you look normal. I don't think the White Sox bullpen having a 7.57 ERA and the starters being, up and down really has anything to do with the pitch clock.
Yeah, and it's not just the White Sox. I would say if it is affecting them, that is the players and the coaching staff's fault for not getting them ready, because other pitching staffs are looking just as good as they have, or just as good as they were forecast, because they prepared for it and they knew what was coming. So I don't know if it's necessarily what's going on with the pitch clock and the White Sox are not ready for it, because I don't see anything untoward. They're not getting exponentially amounts of penalties, and I don't know if they're rushing. It seems like they're in rhythm. Maybe if you ask them on a private moment when they're actually being honest and vulnerable, some will say, yes, it's difficult adjusting to it, but it is also part of their job. So I don't know if to a man they would even admit that, when they're speaking to the media, because it's part of their job. No one's going to feel sorry for them, as everybody else in the league has to also adjust to the pitch clock. So I would say you're not making an excuse, but as a White Sox fan, you're searching for something that makes sense instead of what's been going on with the actual team, which might be the truth that they might be not just good at baseball. So I don't want to believe that, but the record, the play, it looks like it.
We haven't heard anything in regards to the pitch clock being an issue for really anybody. You can go back to the spring, and there were some comments, I think, from Michael Kopech after maybe just the very first start that he made. But this hasn't really seemed to be something that has been bothering the pitchers very much at all. In fact, it was Lance Lynn who told us in spring training that he thinks the batters are going to be the ones who are at the disadvantage, that the pitchers would have the advantage in kind of keeping the batters on their back heels or just on their toes a little bit. So I don't think that's it. And especially when you look and see just the entire league has to deal with the exact same thing. So I don't think that's it, but Herb, you're right. Like, people are just wondering, they're gonna ask every question and come up with every possible explanation because the pitching has been not good so far. I think the starting pitching for the most part has been fine. You know what I mean? It hasn't been great by any stretch, but I think it's been fine. The bullpen is really where things have been a problem. And, I don't think that that's pitch clock related.
Yeah, I really don't think it's pitch clock related at all. It really just seems like they're not executing. JJ's mentioning he thinks mechanics are out of whack, and watching Bummer and Diekman pitch, their release points changed almost every pitch. They're just also weird throwers, and even Katz and Bummer have talked about how it's really tough for him to replicate just his sinker. He just throws it very, very oddly, and for it to come off his hand perfectly is something that they've worked on a lot since Katz has come over. Maybe it is mechanics being out of whack. They've walked a ton of guys. And then when they're walking a ton of guys, they get put into the place where, all right, we're going to need to throw balls over the middle of the plate. When you throw balls over the middle of the plate, hitters are going to hit them. It just really seems like, they're just not helping themselves. I really don't think it's the pitch clock. I think it's just bad execution. I don't think the White Sox are, it's not for, the talent just isn't showing up right now. The execution isn't there. Not really anything with the pitch clock. We saw kind of earlier with Clevenger, but that was the first game, and it seemed like he cleaned it up after the first inning. Kopech a little bit in that first game against the Giants, but he also might have been tipping pitches later on in the game, and that was probably more of the bigger concern than the pitch clock. So, yeah, overall, I don't think the pitch clock has been too much of a harm for Sox pitchers. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about Zach Wheeler versus Lance Lynn and a little bit of the history that Zach Wheeler has with this franchise. We are going to take a break, though, to let you know about our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's NBA playoffs time. That means big hoops action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Get in on the excitement of every game with the touch of a button. New customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Plus, everyone can score a no-sweat same-game parlay every day during the NBA playoffs. Open the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game. If it doesn't hit, you'll get a bonus bet back up to $10. The bet that I think is a quote-unquote lock of the night is in the 76ers and the Nets game. Spencer Dinwiddie on alt-assist line of 10-plus assists today at plus 150 in the past 7 games where he has played 30 or more minutes. He has had 5 games where he has recorded 10-plus assists and the other 2 were 7. So he gets at least near that number. So I like that at plus 150. Download the app now and sign up with code CHGO. New customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code CHGO. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-505 or visit gamblinglinema.org. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and specific state responsible gambling resources. Jesus. ComEd. You guys ever heard about ComEd?
I have. And well done on that read at the end, too.
Thank you. I tried to go as fast as I can, and I thought I was going to run out of breath. How long can you guys hold your breath underwater?
I haven't tried that since I was a child, but it was like 30 seconds.
You looked at me all crazy. You've never tried to hold your breath underwater, Vinny?
Like when I was a kid, sure, you just do it to count. 30 seconds seems long. I feel like I couldn't have done that.
I was good underwater. I didn't know how to swim on the top of the water, not that well, but under the water, I was was awesome.
You're smooth, baby.
Yeah.
Couldn't
From one
stop
end
Herb
to
Lawrence under the
one
water.
end to the other end. Was awesome.
I was very good at sinking as well, Herb. I was very I don't know. It just seemed like Herb. If he
The
was good
oxygen
under the
works
water,
better
wouldn't you
down
be sinking?
there than on the top.
Anyways, ComEd Energy Efficiency Program. They're committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. ComEd offers a wide array of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. And ComEd offers free facility assessments that can help find energy saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes. And an authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. And these can be done in-person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. And within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they could start working on immediately. So if you own a business, do not wait. Get started saving money and energy today. And for energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz. That's ComEd.com/poweringbiz. Zach Wheeler, according to other Sean, eats her hot dogs with ketchup. So let's talk about Zach Wheeler, whose wife really wanted to be on the East Coast, and that's why he turned down more money from the Chicago White Sox. The pitching matchup, Lance Lynn versus Zach Wheeler, tomorrow in Game 1 at 3:10. Wheeler this year, 15 2/3 innings pitched, a 4.02 ERA, 15 hits allowed in those 15 2/3 innings, 18 strikeouts, 7 walks allowed, and a 1.09 ERA plus. Lance Lynn in his 16 innings pitched this year, 7.31 ERA, 19 hits allowed, 21 strikeouts, 7 walks, and an ERA plus of 63. Let's start with Zach Wheeler. Herb, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, Zach Wheeler. Who else could I throw in there? What's the biggest heartbreak of the White Sox past free agent mistakes or gaffes?
I mean, I don't know if Zach Wheeler was a gaffe that's itself. They offered the most money. The client chose to go elsewhere. That's fine. And I never would blame his wife. And, I joked earlier, but, she has a preference. He has a preference. They can live where they want to, and it has turned out well for their family. I would say Manny out of all those things, but I just think the White Sox didn't really pursue him aggressively enough to get his services like the Padres have done multiple times now. But for the pitcher, Zach Wheeler, man, that guy this year is just, if you look at his Baseball Savant page and you can see the percentile rankings, sometimes you get a mixed bag, and he has a couple of the chase rate is in the lower half, and so is the walk rate. It's like a middling one, but everything else is on that red side. Extension 98%, X slug is 85, whiff percentage is 87, barrel percentage is 86 percentile. Like, the guy is a good to great pitcher in this league, and it looks like he's introduced our favorite pitch now, Vinny, the sweeper, and it's doing well for him too, and he's dominating with it. I think it has a +2 run value already, while his four-seamer is getting hit hard. It's a -2, I believe, right now. So I think the White Sox probably need to sit on his fastballs and make sure that his sweeper is legit. I mean, for sweepers, I would just let them go until they can prove they can actually get over the plate. Because you see his red dot, your Rorschach test, Sean, his red dot is like right outside of the outside zone of the pitching of the strike zone. So it's filthy. It looks like a strike up until the last second and then sweeps right across the plate. But if he throws a slider, which has had a negative run value too, it looks like it's elevated. So the White Sox have some opportunities to get off on Zach Wheeler, but make sure that ball is elevated before you take a swing at it, because it looks like his sweeper is just killing folks out there. And the White Sox would like to swing at a lot of those bad pitches outside the zone.
Vinny, the question I kind of want to ask you is, looking at this matchup, seeing that Zach Wheeler could have signed in 2019 and then Lance Lynn acquired in 2021, would they have acquired Lance Lynn if they had Zach Wheeler? Like, is Zach Wheeler in the Lance Lynn spot?
Good question. I don't know. It's a lot of history that needs to be rewritten in order to get to that point. But perhaps, let's put it this way: perhaps there's not as much or as great of a need for a real proven guy, a real reliable guy. Because you'll remember the guy they gave up to get Lance Lynn, Dane Dunning, was thought of very highly. I mean, he's the guy who started game 3 of that AL wildcard series in Oakland over Dylan Cease, who's now one of the best pitchers in baseball. You would like to believe that if they had somebody already kind of posted up in that reliable all-star caliber, high Cy Young finisher, job description, that maybe they give some run to Dane Dunning, and there's no reason to get rid of him. So maybe, to answer your question, but again, that's a lot of things that need to go differently. Where the White Sox are right now is that they have a very good pitcher in Lance Lynn. The Phillies have a very, very good pitcher in Zach Wheeler. But, when it comes to Lance Lynn tomorrow, he needs to do what he did last time out, because I think last time out against Minnesota, you would take that every single time. 10 strikeouts, 0 walks. And if he's going to give up 3 runs on 2 homers, so be it. He's not putting guys on base. He's getting punch outs, and he's going 6 innings. Obviously, Lance Lynn would like to go more than that. He's Lance Lynn. But, we all know what that means in terms of him fighting people to take him out of the game. But the entire starting rotation needs to start going past that 6th inning, because it's helping with that high bullpen ERA, with this bullpen that kind of can't get itself straight right now. Lance Lynn's a guy who has proven that he has longevity in games. If he could go 7 tomorrow, that's a big, big step in the right direction for the White Sox as a team, as well as for Lance individually.
We've brought up the White Sox bullpen. We've brought up the Phillies bullpen, their propensity to walk people, their bad defense. Any other main storylines for this series? White Sox trying to win their first series as well. Is there one that sticks out, or one we haven't mentioned that you're looking forward to in these 3 games?
Just the Phillies' power. I've wanted, and I know you wanted, Kyle Schwarber for a long time. Same with Nick Castellanos for me. I think of that team as the mirror the White Sox look at. Uber talented, underachieving, and then the Phillies went off last year and got to the World Series and hit the stride right at the right time. They have top line starters. I would say their top line starters are better than the White Sox as a collective. But they're the mirror images of each other, but the Phillies hit the ball over the fence. That's the difference. They boot the ball everywhere. They're not that good at as you stated earlier, with bullpen this year. And so I see the White Sox and the Phillies, who have the similar records, looking at each other and say, okay, who's going to finally break out of their early season malaise with this series? Will this carry them on to a better season that they were promised for their fans and themselves? And I don't know if it's a measuring stick, but this is a team that you could take advantage of. Now, when you did that thing a couple days ago when you're like, which team is the White Sox better than? I didn't say yes on the Phillies, because they're just the same. They don't have a series coming up until the Cincinnati Reds one at the beginning of May, until I say, yes, they're decidedly better than that Cincinnati Reds team. And so this is the time to take advantage of a team that's a little bit better than them or equal to them and get some wins.
Well, I think White Sox fans can probably look at the Phillies, and maybe it provides a little bit of a reality check, a little bit of a, hey, that's the reigning World Series champions, and this is what 16 games, when that's the small sample size, this is what it can do, is take a team that a lot of people expect to make the postseason, a team that some expect to make another deep postseason run, and it can make them 6-10, just like the White Sox are. At the same time, I'm sure if you looked at the podcasts and the radio shows and all the writing coming out of Philadelphia, I'm sure they're reacting quite differently than what I just said. But really, as much of a cliche as this is, and a cliche that nobody really even registers in their ear when you hear it, you basically shut your ear off, the whole "it doesn't matter who we play" kind of thing. For the White Sox right now, I think that's kind of true in the essence that their problems are their problems right now, and they need to get themselves fixed. You know what I mean? It's not a matter of, oh man, this is a bad matchup for them, and this is going to go poorly for them, or, oh, this is a great matchup for them and allows them. They need to start playing the baseball that they want to play. They need to find some consistency in the offense. They need to find some consistency in the starting pitching. They need to stop walking guys. They need the bullpen pitchers to be reliable. They need the defense to be reliable. Those things have very rarely occurred over these first couple weeks of this season. And if it doesn't matter if it's the Phillies or the Reds or the Rays or the Royals or teams where, that don't start with an R. It has to be the White Sox to fix the White Sox problems, and they can't rely on the schedule softening in order for them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. And maybe the Phillies are just a team that can make mistakes. And hopefully, them making mistakes, the White Sox can take advantage of it. And two, if you want to hear that it's not too early, we could look at the 2021 Braves, and we could also look at the team that represented the National League last year. Oh, hey, that's the Phillies. They were 21-29 at the start of June 1st. And obviously, they made the change getting rid of Joe Girardi, but you could start bad. You could always turn it around. There's enough baseball ahead where you can at least get into the playoffs. And again, this is a bad AL Central, one where the Twins were leading the division on August 2nd last year and finished third. So the Sox aren't done just yet, but we'll talk a little bit about that upcoming with our Mailbag Monday. We want to take a quick break and let you know about our friends over at Fubo TV. Head over to FuboTV.com/CHGO. They have 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You can stream live TV from any device and watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price. The best part, you can start watching immediately with a 7-day free trial. There's no contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. My favorite part is the 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge. And you want to sign up now because they have the NFL draft on ESPN and the NFL Network, the NHL draft on ESPN, and tonight the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs are starting, and the NBA, like we mentioned, already started. You got the Kings and Warriors and the Nets and 76ers tonight. So you can watch the Sox on NBC Sports Chicago with our friends over at Fubo TV. Use the link in the description below to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. That is at FuboTV.com/CHGO. Also want to let you know about Game Time. Our friends over at Game Time. If you're ever stressed out about getting a ticket, I know our friend Herb was stressed out about getting a ticket up in Pittsburgh, and he hit up Game Time. Last minute deal, last minute price drops for the hottest events in your city. And it doesn't have to be sports, right? It doesn't have to be the White Sox. Maybe you're kind of out on the Sox right now. Maybe you want them to prove it. Well, why not go watch a little concert? Maybe there's a comedian you want to go see. Game Time will have the biggest last minute price drops for you with killer deals on last minute tickets and the best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Herb also took advantage of the price guarantee. Went to Atlanta last year, bought these tickets on Game Time, found better seats like 12 minutes later, and then within 10 minutes had 110% of his money back because they have fantastic customer support over at Game Time. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's get into our diehard mailbag, and our friends have become CHGO diehards. You could sign up at allchgo.com. I know we got some Bulls diehard only reads up at allchgo. Jared Willis and Vinny have free articles up at allchgo about the White Sox series this weekend. But if you are looking to become a diehard, join our CHGO lounge. Head over to allchgo.com. You get a lovely box that's out there that I could show you, but you get a t-shirt, stickers, a membership card. It's all very exciting. And you also get access to the CHGO Discord. But let's jump into the first question, and it is from our guy Ian Robo. Is Katz to blame for the bullpen woes? Why is it so particular? Or why does it seem to gone backwards? My bad on that, Ian. Reading is tough for me. But why has the bullpen taken so many steps backward, and is Ethan Katz the person to blame?
I mean, I think we spent all last year talking about how, Tony La Russa might not have been the biggest reason that the White Sox were, 500, but he was the manager. So, of course, he shouldered plenty, if not much of the blame. You could say the same thing for, the individual groups on these teams. You know what I mean? Ethan Katz is the pitching coach. He's in charge of the pitching. And right now the pitching is not very good, particularly out in the bullpen. But that's why he's there too, is to make these changes on the fly. It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing at the beginning of the season where it's like, all right, whatever you are in the first week of April, that's what you're going to be through the entire season. And fingers crossed, you know what I mean? He's there to coach them literally on a daily basis and make those adjustments as things go along. We saw it work wonders with Michael Kopech from the first start that he made against the Giants to the second start that he made in Pittsburgh, fixing that issue that was causing the Giants to recognize what was coming at them. It is a process. You can't fix everything in one day. And the problem with those bullpen guys is sometimes they need to be used the next day. Sometimes they need to be used within 2 days. The starters get 4 days to make the changes that they need to get. The bullpen guys kind of got to be ready all the time. So, they're working on it. But again, it's not something that you can say is definitively going to be the case for the rest of the season. I think you got to let the coach and see what happens.
Yeah, we give credit to Ethan when the Lucas Giolito turnaround happened. Same with Rodon and Cease. So we got to give him a little, blame when the bullpen doesn't perform as well as they should. So I'm not out on Ethan Katz. I still think he is a premium pitching coach, but he deserves blame when these guys don't perform. I give more blame to the actual players who are out there not performing. And so, yeah, I think that he is still good at his job. The players are not doing what they should be doing, and he might not be doing what he should be doing. So he'll get a little blame because I'll give him credit for Keenan Middleton, who he knew. And now Keenan Middleton's on this team looking nice, but you can't give him credit for Keenan Middleton and not give him blame for Aaron Bummer.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I don't know if it's blame. I feel like, again, they're losing, so we want to be mad and we want to direct it somewhere. And Matthew saying, like, what does he do well? Well, we were all hyping him up in his first year in 2021 when they won 93 games. So I don't know if it's all on Katz. I think he does a good job of understanding what's modern. I think he does a good job of using the technology that's available to him. I think he understands the game. He's done a great job of shortening up arm. I want to say strides, but I think that's legs are taking strides, but arm paths for these pitchers to make them more deceptive. It seems like he's done a lot better than Don Cooper. That's for sure. Don Cooper was here for 15 years and just kind of was like, go and get him. I think Ethan is a little bit more thoughtful. I think it's a little bit more modern, and I appreciate his approach. Again, I think if they were getting better results, it wouldn't really be looked at as an Ethan Katz thing. However, I will say, I don't know if it's like Pedro. A bad thing that I've been doing, I think, through the first 16 games is being like, well, Pedro's making the decisions on the bullpen, and these are Pedro's bullpen decisions. I feel like we talked a little bit about this during the offseason, was that Pedro was going to rely on Ethan Katz. So maybe the pitching choices and who's going to face whom when might be a little bit more on Ethan, and maybe that's something that could be brought up on Ethan a little bit more, as maybe he's more of the manager and pulling the strings on who's coming in when. Am I off base on that, Vinny?
I think it's a team effort. I think that, obviously Ethan and Kurt Hassler both know this pitching staff better than anybody, and that includes the manager, because they are right in the thick of that every single minute of every single day. So Pedro is the one making the decision, obviously, but it's a team effort in terms of them providing the input and them coming up with a strategy. We've heard so much of those matchups are predetermined, right? That pitcher X is going to face this group of batters, and they know that before the first pitch of the game is even thrown. That probably is a very collaborative process, I would imagine. And we've heard such from Pedro working with his coaching staff in a variety of different decision-making methods. So, that's not unique to the White Sox. That is basically how it works in baseball. And I think it was funny. Pedro was even asked, during that first series at home, by a particular reporter, like, hey, how does it feel to go from giving advice all those years to now having to take it and use that to make a decision? So that's what those coaches are there to do. They're not just there to, hit fungos and wave guys home for third base. They are there to provide in-game, input to the manager to help him make decisions.
Yeah, and I do love the comments from people being like, "Why do we keep seeing Jake Diekman so much?" And I even saw you respond to it on Twitter, being like, "Yeah, I guess he does pitching in basically every single game." It's just because they're losing. I feel like that's the reason why we're seeing Jake Diekman is because they have a losing record. So you're going to see more of the guys that are used in losing situations.
Well, and I'll bring this up too. Think about a few different things. Number one, the White Sox only have, well, I think now they have, since they called up Tanner Banks, the 3 lefties, but they only have the 2 lefties. And Bummer is a guy who has always been considered someone who it doesn't matter what the hand in the batter is, throw him out there. He's a late inning guy who just happens to be a lefty, right? Diekman is that a lefty. He's a guy who you would bring in when you need a lefty, and he's maybe, for a while there at least, was the only one of those types on this team. I would also say this too: the way Pedro has said that he's using his bullpen, and we've seen this with Reynaldo Lopez in particular, is, you know, he's picking out the parts of the batting order where he's going to have pitchers face guys. So if he's holding his best pitchers for the best part of the batting order, who's going to go face the bottom of the batting order, right? And I think the idea is people want it to be that video game way where it's like, well, that's my 7th inning guy, that's my 8th inning guy, and that's my 9th inning guy. Throw them every single day because the stamina bar doesn't go down that much in the video game. Just do it that way. I don't think that's how it works in real life. And I think if you're going to say Reynaldo Lopez, I need to save him for the most important part of the game, I need to save Kendall Graveman for the next most important part of the game. Well, when the starters are only going 5 innings, there's going to be some parts in the late innings that aren't quite as important. And perhaps the White Sox are reserving those for some other pitchers so they can save Lopez and Graveman, and when he's healthy, Joe Kelly, but he's not healthy right now, which plays into this as well, for those other parts of the lineup. So you say, why is he using him every day? Well, that might provide some insight. I'm sure it, I don't know if it completely answers the question, but I think there are things that you got to think about when you look at how that bullpen is used.
Absolutely. And I think even too, just to add on to the Bummer thing, we know that he was dealing with an injury around spring training. So I think that they're also just making sure that they're managing him properly and not overusing him. So we don't see another guy end up on the IL and we have another thing to complain about with this team. Because then if Aaron Bummer's on the IL, well, guess what? We're only going to get more and more Jake Diekman and Tanner Banks. So, as long as they're able to manage their health, I think that's what's most important. All right, we're going to move on to our next question here in the Monday mailbag. I guess it's all Ethan Katz's fault. We could say that for the first 16 games, right? Yeah. Will the Scout saying, I held out optimism all last season and the back half of 2021. I'm not doing that again. At what point this season, looking at the schedule, do you think it's appropriate to write this team off? Our guy, Matthew Cortese, who's always picking 5-0 Sox wins and no hitters, said, is anyone concerned about our losing record since the All-Star break in 2021? So Herb, about optimism, when can we start giving up on this team? Like I mentioned, the Phillies last year, 21 and 29 at June 1st, and they still made the World Series.
In my history dealing with Major League Baseball teams, and I think the White Sox in particular, either Kenny or Rick has said this specifically, that after 60 games is pretty much where you know where your team's headed. So I am choosing to be optimistic, and I'm putting those in quotes because, every day it's just chipping away at my optimism for this team. But I'm going to let them get 60 games in to see what this team is all about, especially after this first month of this gauntlet of a schedule. You'll see exactly what this team's about. If you at home want to give up on the team, I can't blame you. Last year was hard. And to see the same things, it's going to be even harder to have faith that this team and the people who are in the organization are going to fix it, as the offseason didn't really go as most of us had planned or wanted it to go. So, yeah, for myself, 60 games, I'm going to see reassess where I feel about this team strongly. And for yourself, if you're at home, do what you want to do. And I wouldn't blame you if you just said, hey, man, I'm out, because it's tough. It's tough to go through this if you're a fan that's a diehard that lives and dies like with the result of the game, each game, and that determines your mood the rest of the day. I know it sounds extreme, but that still happens. And the White Sox got that hold on me, and I'm sure some people out there got that same hold on you.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, when do you write the White Sox off? You can't write them off in April, certainly, but at the same time, you can feel however you want to feel. That is your prerogative. And if this is making you mad and you want to give up, then go ahead and give up. And then if they go on a 10-game winning streak, no one's going to say, no, you can't come back in. You're allowed to turn the TV back on. You're allowed to get back in the ballpark. I'm sure of it. So, yeah, of course you cannot write this team off right now. They're playing poorly, no doubt about that. And it's reason for fans to be frustrated. But you can react however you want. You can scream at me on Twitter and in the comments however much as you want, as I continue to tell you that math has not yet eliminated the Chicago White Sox from anything.
Damn you and math, you jerks. I hate both of you. Yeah, I said May 28th, at least for what we were doing last year. I mean, Steve Stone said you can enjoy the ride or be bitter. And around May 28th, I kind of got sick of this team. And I think it's kind of fair. Maybe I even push it back a little bit because, again, you don't have full health. Tim Anderson isn't here. Yohan Moncada isn't here. And Liam Hendriks isn't here. And if you want to be pissed off because that was the same thing, maybe sans Liam last year, you wouldn't be wrong. Like you could fan however you want. And Vinny's right. They're going to let you in if you want to come in. So it's all about them improving it. And if they don't start to prove it, and if they keep losing it and you just can't turn them on, don't turn them on. Just turn us on. We'll keep you updated. Got a little quiz for you before we go to the next mailbag. Don't worry, Herb. This is not like I'm not trying to. This is just a fact.
Okay.
They played 251 games since the 2021 All-Star break. What's their record?
I know it's under 500. It has to be.
It's not 500 because that's an odd number.
It's not 500.
Whatever 5 games under 500 would be in that equation.
Okay. Vinny?
Well, that's current. That's just the last 2 years, right? So last year was 500. They're 4 under now. So what was their record after the All-Star break in 2021? I think it was losing, right? So I will go ahead and say I'll say those slightly more under 500 than Herb just said to beat him in prices.
Your price is right in me.
Price is wrong, Vin. It is Herb Lawrence with the win because you guys are pessimist jerks hating on the White Sox, this storied franchise. They're 126 and 125.
They're one game over.
One game over.
Okay.
Wow.
One game over, baby.
Remember that because this question's probably going to come along again, Herb. So remember that after the All-Star break in 2021, they were
126 and 125.
7 over.
So they were 39 and 34 after the 2021.
5 over. Okay.
Yeah, 5 over. And then they went 81 and 81. And right now, 5 games under, or 4 games under, right, giving them 1 game over the 251. So yeah, I mean, like I don't know if I can be concerned because like that first half of 2021 was really good. They dealt with a lot of injuries in 2021 too, and they're still above 500. Like I get it. 500 isn't the place we want to be, but it's not. You're not Oakland. Like I don't know. Like this team isn't talented, and they're also not this bad. I mean, like right now they have the worst bullpen ever. Actually, that's a lie. Someone did ask, do the White Sox have the worst bullpen ever? The Philadelphia Phillies of 1930 had a bullpen ERA of 8.01.
Over the course of an entire season, not just 16 games.
Ooh, so there's
over 383 innings.
There's still a chance. The White Sox can get that. Hey, if you're going to be bad, be the worst.
Yeah. Well, and the Phillies actually love being the worst. The top 5, and 2 of these are 2023 teams, but the Phillies have the worst, the 3rd worst, and the 5th worst out of the top 5 from 2020, 2023, and then 1930. So
actual question though, 1930, like the bullpen's like barely pitched, right? You said 300 something innings, like
yeah, that's like a Nolan Ryan season,
right? But that's like ridiculously small compared to how much bullpens currently pitch.
Yeah. Their starters must have only went like 7 innings and like were shunned back then. Like, 7 innings start. What is this like, world coming to?
The most recent team that's not like from the 20s, I guess the 1950s, St. Louis Browns, but they're not even a team anymore. 2007 Rays.
They're in Baltimore now.
Right. The 2007 Rays had a 6.16 ERA and 490.
That's really bad.
Yeah, 497 innings pitched. So that's a little bit more of a modern usage. All right, next question. It's from our guy, Other Sean, who was bashing on ketchup just a little bit earlier. Is there room for both Jake Berger and Gavin Sheets on a healthy Chicago White Sox roster?
Man, we're going to find out. I don't know, I guess is the answer. Jake Berger certainly has earned a spot on it, I would say, unless he goes cold, which of course is something that could happen before Yoan Moncada comes back off the IL. But I don't think Gavin Sheets has really done anything to get kicked off this team. Like the power didn't really show up until yesterday, obviously. And then there's the defensive play in right field that nobody liked for good reason. And remember, in that same series against the Twins, he had a worse play while playing first base. So the defense has not been really good there for Sheets, but his hitting numbers are fine. His average and his on base percentage are very good, actually. Yeah, it's just that same old story about the positions. Where are you going to play these guys? How are you going to play these guys? I thought that when the season started, that Gavin Sheets was a perfectly serviceable bench bat, a guy that you can call up off the bench and come get a hit for you, come hit a home run for you. But can they have two of those guys? I don't know. And they're going to have to figure it out. Because Jake Berger, like I said yesterday, they might not be able to afford to be without him. The power and the consistency at the plate that he's bringing right now, the way this lineup has produced through the first couple weeks of the season, I don't know if they could afford to not have Jake Berger in the middle of that lineup.
Can they have both of these players on the same White Sox roster? I mean, yes, question mark, yes, and with an exclamation point after it, yeah.
Well, can I help you out here?
But also the squeeze is not going to be good. Go ahead, Sean.
So Grandal, Zavala, Vaughn, Elvis, Tim, Yoan, Benintendi, Robert Jr., Colas, Aloy. Any objections to those 10?
No.
Okay. That's those 10 will probably be on a healthy White Sox roster. So then you have 3 roster spots to fill. Romy, Sheets, Berger. Does that make sense?
No, because those two guys do similar things and you don't have versatility. I know Romy plays both the outfield and infield, but Gavin really doesn't play the outfield well. And to have him as your 4th outfielder in that scenario is not good for any team. Both players are major league players. That's no doubt. Both players should be on a major league roster contributing, but they both can't be on the same team because they don't do enough with other things. Like Jake can play third base, kind of, but where else can he play? First base, maybe. And the same thing with Gavin Sheets. He can play first base or designated hitter, and then maybe an outfield spot. But that's not you don't need maybes. You need, okay, we're going to go to this guy today, and he's going to give us quality effort both with the bat and the glove. And so, yeah, their guys are good, and they should be on a major league team. But when everybody's healthy on the White Sox, both can't be on the team. And
Sheets.
Go ahead.
Gavin Sheets currently leads this team in both batting average and on-base percentage. Mm-hmm. It's not bad. No, it's not bad for a guy who's taken an awful lot of crap from social media the first couple of weeks of this season. He's hitting well, and he's not hitting for a ton of power, which obviously he's supposed to be doing. So sure, go ahead and knock him for that. But on a team that has struggled to get consistent offense from almost everybody, he is hitting. So keep that in mind.
Jake Berger's second in team F4, right behind Luis Robert with a 0.5.
Second and 4.
You know that's generated mostly from his offense too. So
what is it good for? Yeah, I mean, maybe the question should be Oscar Colas. If Gavin Sheets is the left-hander that's leading the team in batting average and on-base percentage, Oscar Colas, who's hitting 235, 304, slugging 314, is he on watch to be off this team if Gavin Sheets continues to hit so well?
I don't think he's done anything to get booted from it. Like, I think this is what was expected from Oscar Colas. He's a rookie. He's a guy who's learning how to face major league pitching. And if you didn't want that kind of production in your lineup, if you didn't want his development to continue, if you weren't okay with him learning how to be a major leaguer throughout the course of his rookie season in the major leagues, then you shouldn't have given him the starting right fielder's job. And they gave him that job in November, basically. So I don't really see him going anywhere, nor should he really. But eventually you line up with a bunch of guys that shouldn't go anywhere, and you get the question, well, how are we going to fit all these guys in here? And I don't know what the answer is.
Thumbs up, thumbs down on Shurger.
As a nickname, real thumbs down. It's not good.
Down.
It's not good. It should just be Beats. Why isn't it just Beats?
I like Beats better.
That is nice.
I didn't know about Beats. I like Beats better.
Ooh. That is nice.
All right, all right. All right. I'm gonna give it a thumbs down now because I now know about beets. Beets is better. All right, let's go to the final question here from Cold Taco 97. I would not eat a cold taco. Do you see Han trading anyone soon? There's still a logjam with the first base DH types, as we just talked about. And also, when can we pack Jake Diekman's bag and DFA up? That last question, I think that's wishful thinking. But at least with the logjam at first base, I got a little bit bagged on because I was on Sox on 35th as a little guest, and they put up a clip of me saying the real meatball take is Andrew Vaughn should be taking grounders at second base. The whole context was, someone said the meatball thing is Jake Berger should play third, move you on to second, and then there you go. You have Jake Berger in the lineup, Yohan in the lineup, Vaughn in the lineup, Tim in the lineup. I was just saying, though, Shane Reardon was saying Jake Berger should have been taking ground balls at second base for the past 2 years. Vaughn's a better athlete. Like, shouldn't he been the one, instead of, moonlighting out in right field and left field, just put his ass at second base? And obviously Nick Madrigal was still in the picture and everything. It was just a meatball take, but what do you do about all these first basemen, Herb?
I mean, you have to introduce maybe shipping one of these people off, because we all know that these players at AAA are not going to be their growth at the minor leagues level is over. They can still grow in the major leagues, but they need to be in the major leagues to grow. So, as a mercy thing, kind of like, hey, I don't have any playing time for you, Jake Berger, or at least the playing time that you deserve to get here, and it will make our lineup versatile to get somebody who's more of like a Kike Hernandez type player. Not necessarily you're going to get Kike Hernandez for Jake Berger, but maybe you do. Like, getting more of a versatile player who can contribute with the bat and contribute with the glove, I think that makes the White Sox team more of a more well-rounded team, and also trim some of the fat that they have in the first base DH types that they get. But like I said, it's going to be really early to trade off one of those guys. And I don't think Rick or Kenny like to trade before the 60-game mark because they don't know what their team is. And so, yes, can they trade them? They should trade them, I would say, no matter what at the deadline. We'll trade somebody because the logjam is too much. And Jake Berger, for my money, out of the people who are rumored to be like either sent down or get less playing time, would be the guy that I give more playing time to than like Gavin Sheets, who is doing well, as Vinny said. But the potential of Jake Berger just running into balls and hitting them over the fence, which has been very fruitful for him and good for the team, is a little bit more with Sheets, who hit his first home run yesterday. But I know that lefty power in Major League Baseball is looked at as a little more of a positive thing and a rare thing for the White Sox. So Sheets will probably get the nod over Jake Berger in that. But for me, I say Berger should be the main guy you're trying to pigeonhole into getting some playing time. Find a way, even though if you have to sacrifice some defensive things at second base that he's probably not ready for.
Yeah, I don't see any trades coming imminently. It's just too early in the season to be doing that. Not to mention that they had all of these players all along this whole offseason. If they were if they would have found a trade that they wanted to make it to address this issue, they would have made it already. I think what makes which is what is very hard to do, is to make a trade just because you have too much of something. What are you trying to accomplish with the trade? You need to get something back. And when you have a surplus, think of like if you work at a store and you are selling some sort of item, I have too much of this. How am I going to get rid of all this? I'm just going to have to cut the price, right? The White Sox don't want to trade low on these guys. They don't want to trade low on something that might be some of the only things that they have to trade. So they're going to wait until they're able to have a player up that value. And certainly guys like Berger and Sheets are doing well. I mean, that is probably happening in some regard, but no team is just going to be like, all right, White Sox, we'll give you something that we have that's good to help you solve your little logjam problem. No, they're going to have to go out and make a fair trade for something that they actually need. And I don't think right now is the time when that's going to happen, because guess what? The entire offseason was not the time when that was going to happen, because it didn't happen. So maybe when the trade deadline rolls around, the White Sox are in a different place. Other teams are in different places. The needs are more clear, and there's a swap that makes more sense. But right now, you can't just say like, well, we got to trade one of these guys, and hopefully they get exactly what we want back for it. That's not really how it works.
Right. Matthew Lucas saying if you think Berger is on the heater, then trade him. If you think it's sustainable, then Aloy for prospects that don't carry the stink of Sox failed development plans in the system. Like, again, like someone wants or will need to want Jake Berger. Like, does that person exist? You're just going to trade Aloy because Jake Berger's hitting home runs? Well, I mean, that just kind of sucks for Jake Berger. You should be able to more of a well-rounded player or more of a well-rounded hitter like Aloy Jimenez. If you were more of a well-rounded hitter, you'd probably beat him out for the DH spot. Like, yeah, you're both right-handed. I mean, like if Jake Berger wants a spot on an MLB team, he has to keep hitting. They'll find a spot for him. And that's the one thing too. Like right now, Moncada is on the IL. So this isn't a pressing need. They still have time to have Jake Berger and Gavin Sheets try to figure it out here. And even Colas too. I mean, they have options with him and Romy, where if those guys really aren't dazzling with the bats, maybe they send one of those guys down and use their options, and Sheets and Berger find a way to stay on the White Sox major league roster. Let's take a quick break, and then I think we'll probably just end up having to cancel the quiz because we're a little over an hour here. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. They have durable frames, extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures, and they are comfy as well. I'm never feeling uncomfortable in my Shady Rays. They are built perfectly for my nose and face. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. So wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. So exclusive for our listeners, they're giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com, use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. Try yourself. These shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. I think you guys got saved by the bell. We do have brand new shirts. Check out chgolocker.com. And if you are a new diehard, you get to pick out a shirt. You get a free shirt coupon. People who have been with us for the full year as well, you do have a free shirt coupon when your membership renews. So if you do want a new shirt, check out chgolocker.com. But what we're going to add there, Ben?
Well, we got another off day coming up on Thursday.
That's true. That's true.
You just keep hang on to those questions, Sean.
Here. I'll give you a little homework, gents, and even
I don't like.
Well, don't worry. It's not that difficult. You're literally, it's a part of your job. I mean, it's something that happens at the ballpark.
That's weird.
The 7th inning stretch.
Yes. No. Before we leave, I want to say happy birthday to our guy, KPW. It's his birthday today.
Is he, are birthdays weird up there in Canada? Does he age like 2 years for every one of our years?
Wouldn't 10 would make sense, right? The metric system, 10 years for everyone.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know much about the metric system because we're imperialists.
Also dumb. But yeah, him and then Cole Taco. I got to meet him at the ballpark this weekend. It was good to see everybody out there. Nice. And what is it, KPW? I think he's 22 now. He's feeling 22.
Mercy. Who's 22 on the Jays? Jordan Romano? Hopefully it's not Anthony Bass.
Yeah. I don't know who is.
Anyways, we'll save the quiz for Thursday. Maybe keep your ears open when you're at the ballpark.
Oh, it's going to be about PitchCom, Herb.
No. That's Vinnie Duber. You can follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Duber. He's our CHGO White Sox beat writer. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at Eknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. The other question I had too was just Aloy playing out in right field. None of you brought that up organically, so we're not putting him in the outfield. All right. Andrew Vaughn can learn to play second base. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Thank you to Stephen Nicholas for producing the show and everyone hanging out with us in the chat. All of our Matthew buddies, our White Sox Toms, our Southside 1998, our my buddy Alex, other Sean, all those wonderful, wonderful people. Make sure you're hitting the like button on your way out. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I don't think we're doing a pregame show. So we'll be doing a post-game show for Game 2. So we'll recap Game 1 and Game 2 for you tomorrow here on the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. We'll talk to you then. Go Sox.